Welcome back to So, What's Your Story? Where we will conclude our two-part story of Pinto Portage to the Pacific. Part one of Pinto Portage to the Pacific left us and our trusty Pinto as it made its way through and above and over the Continental Divide, and we were headed to Vail, Colorado. I had the incredible experience of skiing at Vail in the winter of 1968 and 69, and then again in 69 70, when the Lions Head area opened at Vail Ski Resort. We stayed right outside the village within walking distance to the old gondola. As I recall, the 10-day stay at the condo cost $600, $60 a day. That was for a two-bedroom living room and kitchen dining room apartment. This early picture looks very much like the first remembrance of the village. Notice there is no development on the ridge across the road. Once President Gerald Ford became president, Vail began to get more publicity as he owned a home at Vail. The slope, over here I guess it is, the slope was a pretty neat bar and restaurant hangout where people could go to the underground theater and watch vintage ski movies while relaxing on tiered ramps with pillows rather than chairs. Riding the old silver gondola was quite a thrill, and taking a break at the old Mid-Vail Lodge was always welcome. Well, at the winter of 69-70, that was quite exciting because it was the first year that the Lions Head area was opened, named after the nearby rock outcropping, and some of the African-themed trail names included Born Free and Bawana. This cool poster for sale on eBay is from 1970. By 1975, when we drove through the Continental Divide and through the Rockies in the old Pinto, the north side of the road at Vail had already started undergoing development in what they call the Potato Patch subdivision. And now it's a full-blown city of its own. This village is named after the potato farmers who settled in the area in the early 1900s. One of the houses for sale today lists for $5.5 million and another for $13.7 million. Not your average camping tour home. Our journey left Colorado on Route 70, and we worked our way to Route 6 and 50 in Utah. At a campsite in Utah, we met up with another young adventurer riding a small-sized motorcycle. He teamed up with us because he was not sure that his small gas tank would get him across some of the long stretches of desert road that we encountered. One section was about 125 miles, and sure enough, he ran out of gas. So there we were in the middle of a Utah desert, and I had to figure out how to drain some gas from our Pinto for him. We didn't plan on bringing a gas can, and for certain, he didn't. So while my wife carefully walked the dogs among the cactus plants everywhere in the very hot sun, I climbed under the old Pinto and got the gas line unhooked at the fuel pump and was able to gravity feed some gas into a soda can. And after about a couple cans fulls, off we went. The funny part of this adventure was about 3 miles down the road. You guessed it, was a gas station. And to be honest, I do not remember much about our trip from that point through the state of Nevada until we got to Mono Lake, California. Mono Lake is located between the arid Great Basin and the snowy Sierra Nevada mountains. Mono Lake is an ancient saline lake that covers over 70 square miles and supports a unique and productive ecosystem. The lake has trillions of brine shrimp and alkali flies, millions of birds, and freshwater tributary streams. Along the lake shore, scenic limestone formations known as tufa towers rise from the water's surface. According to the Mono Lake Committee, it's quite a spectacular sight to see. When we left NAS Memphis, gasoline was about 25 cents a gallon. I remember we used to try to run the Pinto to almost empty to see if we could get more than $2 worth in the tank. Imagine that. I think it was like a 10-gallon tank, 11-gallon tank. Well, as we left Mono Lake, we started to wind our way up through the backside of the Sierra Nevada mountains to Inyo National Forest. Sierra Nevada means snow-covered mountain range in Spanish, and its snow melt provides up to 60% of the fresh water for California. One remarkable site we came upon was Tioga Lake. We would later visit that lake and camp and spend the weekend fishing, hiking, and just enjoying the beautiful scenery around that lake. And we did that with one of our old Navy friends. If you were wondering why I mentioned the gas price when we left Tennessee, was because the price started to increase from about 40 cents a gallon that summer, already increased from about 25 or 30. And the further we went west, guess what? The gas prices climbed to around 70 cents a gallon. Well, to our surprise, very near Lake Tioga, we saw a sign for gasoline at a station. 35 cents. Well, we jumped on that price. Zinger, but to our surprise, the fine print read per half gallon. Well, our trip took us to the rear entrance of Yosemite Forest that night, as night was coming upon us. I have to mention that when we got to California, the State Border Patrol had a check station for plant inspection. All of my wife's plants but one, a sweet potato plant that had flowered, were taken. Welcome to California. Well, these checkpoints are to help reduce any invasive insects that could harm the California production or produce production. Well, we finally made our way through Yosemite National Park, and by the time we made it to the west entrance, it was, like I said, quite dark, and we pulled over to sleep. Our trip was soon over, but not without one more not so pleasant event. While we slept, our little pup Irish setter had chewed my wife's final plant off at the base, and in the process tipped over an open can of motor oil that I had placed in the back of the Pinto, and he proceeded to get covered from head to toe with oil. I guess he felt he needed to have a bright new shiny coat to greet California. Well, folks, thanks a lot for sharing and coming along. This concludes our trip across the country. And thanks for joining us on the Pinto Portage to the Pacific. So, what's your story?